Hey, this is Anthony Santo from myrecordinginternship.com, here to talk to you about mixing with a mix bus. I'm going to explain why you want to use it, how to set it up, and what its benefits really are. So when you usually do a mix, you can go ahead and send everything to different buses, and if you're not sure what I'm talking about there, maybe I can make a new video for something like that. But if we have the kick drums all headed to bus 1, and then they're headed maybe to the drum bus track, and we're putting different levels of EQ, compression, and other plugins on to each one of these tracks in order to make it sound better and better. Now, what happens at the end is everything goes through this master track here. So really, if we want to make any final adjustments, we could do it right on this master track, and it will affect every single one of the tracks leading into it. So that's fine for if you're working on something and you don't have anything you want to base it off of. Sometimes you have a sample track, sometimes you're working on your second mix, you want to compare it to your first mix, and what happens is everything that you do in this master track gets applied to your sample track here. So imagine this, I'm over here and I bring up my EQ here and bring up an EQ 3/7 band, and I want to make some EQs to the entire mix. So I start playing the mix back and making my EQs. I'm going to make some really big EQs so that we could really tell the difference. Alright, so that's a massive difference between what we had and what we do have. I'll just flip the bypass on and off for you so you can hear it. I'm not saying it's an improvement, but it definitely will show you what I'm talking about here. So now we have this sample track. So we'll flip this back on. This sample track is also going out of this master. That is the final A1, A2 master. So anything that's on as a plugin on this will also be on as a plugin on this. So check this out. So if we're trying to do comparisons, and we're trying to compare maybe the old mix to the new mix, this really messes that up and really makes it difficult for us to do. But there's a way around it. We're going to make a mix bus instead of this master. So this won't be on the master, it'll now be on the mix bus. But what we need to do is take everything that's coming out, A1, A2, since this is the A1, A2 master, and send it somewhere else. So first things first, let's make a mix bus. I'm just going to make a stereo aux input. And here we are, we'll call it mix bus. Okay. Now the input of that will be, for me it's going to be, I'll put it in 1920. Doesn't really matter what your input is, as long as you have one, it's not being used by anything else. Now everything that says A1, A2 on it needs to go to 1920, but anything bust out, anything else does not need to go to 1920 because it will be bust out in levels. So let's check this out first, figure out these fellas definitely need to go. So I will send them to my mix bus. And I'll find a few more A1, A2s and send them as well. I know my bass is coming out A1, A2 right now. Just want to make sure nothing else is. Move my bass to 1920. Great. So now everything is going into this mix bus, and what we can do is apply our final finishing touches onto there instead. So I'll move this EQ onto the mix bus, and we could take this off. All right, so the EQ is still being applied here, and you could tell by flipping it on and off. But what's not going to happen, the EQ will no longer be applied to my sample track. So if I'm listening to a mix that I did before, or just something I want it to sound like, I won't have any of those effects that are on the entire mix on my sample track. So check that out real quick. I'll just solo that. And it doesn't matter if I turn this on bypass or turn it off bypass, it will no longer affect the sample track. That makes it easy for us to switch back and forth and see what we like better. So that's what you use a mix bus for, and I hope to see you on the next video. Thanks for being with me on this one.